around that area. But here we go, first pick and ban of World's group stage.
And we will see junglers hit up right in the beginning, Kalista as well. Expect to see that throughout Worlds on that ban bench.
Yeah, exactly. Like, each role right now, except for mid lane, have 2 to 3 picks that everyone is looking at. Mid lane is very open. There's a lot of different things you can play, but in the jungle, you look at Gragas, Sejuani, Jarvan in almost every single game. And AD carry, Kalista has to be banned.
And the added element in this matchup as well is that Fenerbahçe has already played a bunch of games in play, and so Royal Never Give Up has seen exactly what their preferences are on this patch. The most apparent preference was Crash on Gragas. Sejuani has been mostly permaban. Gragas is what has been picked by Crash almost every time, and since RNG has first pick, they forced Fenerbahçe to ban Sejuani.
And now I want to see if RNG wants to play Ardent Sensor meta, because Lulu, Janna are super popular here among the pro teams. Go for late game and just rely on your AD carry to win the games is something we will see very often. Both Lulu, Janna are available in this draft, but RNG are going with the Rek'Sai first pick. This is definitely not something you guys will see from a lot of teams, and it's very specific now for RNG and Mlxg here in the first game of the group stages.
A lot of junglers don't even have Rek'Sai within the past few weeks to 3-4 a month in their game, so very interesting there. Thaldrin picks up the Lulu, a possible Nidalee there. Crash having some decent mechanics on these types of champions, but it's still a risky pick.
Yeah, it's very required to do well in the early game here for Crash, but at the same time, 1907 Fenerbahçe has had more success allowing Crash to play his style, and that is something that Nidalee is definitely capable of doing.
And the smart thing we see here as well...
Does that answer your question, Deficio?
We do get Ardent Sensor here from RNG. Same thing over for 1907 Fenerbahçe. Taking Lulu above Janna is the smart choice, because Lulu can beat Janna in the laning phase and still have the Ardent Sensor for late game. That's why they're going for that choice. We get full-on late game, though, from RNG's bottom lane now.
Exactly. Tristana still on the table, but they opt for the Kog'Maw, and this is a very LPL preference. Kog'Maw is more highly valued in the LPL than it is in probably any other region, so we get to see them building already around the shields, Ardent Sensor, and Uzi's Kog'Maw.
And we should see a lot more of that from other teams as well, because in a team fighting meta where you buff up the AD carry, having a hyper carry that can shred tanks, well, that will obviously be super valuable, because when you have Ardent Sensor supports fighting each other, both team comps are focused on killing the tank from each team. Well, who wins? Probably the hyper carry who has percentage damage.
The Tristana being locked in. 1907 Fenerbahçe getting a bit of demolition damage in there. If they do get a good early game lead, they can start to take down those turrets. It is going to be hard. RNG looking to set up defense and scale up, protect those turrets and keep the laning phase a little longer. Final bans coming out pretty tanky from Fenerbahçe. 1907 Fenerbahçe, they don't want to be engaged on. And now we see the Talia. What else? Possibly another mid laner.
Well, it's very interesting how mid lane at the moment actually has so many blind pickable champions. A lot of matchups are kind of 50-50 in there, so you can go for your blind pick mid here for Frozen and then last pick for Thaldrin. However, Thaldrin is much like he's playing a lot of different tanks. Going for something like a Maokai blind and then actually let Frozen last pick. We know he can play things like Echo, might be more valuable for 1907 Fenerbahçe.
Yeah, we did see Thaldrin look his best on Maokai, so that is the pick for 1907 Fenerbahçe. And the question for RNG now is, how do they round out the rest of their team composition? They get the blind pick mid, so to speak, with Syndra still being on the table, has been the highest priority mid laner on this patch at Worlds Play.
Yeah, LeBlanc is also available. Like, so few things will actually kill you in lane then, and you get quite a lot of pressure from that side with Xiaohu, and you have already Rek'Sai to gank with. So LeBlanc would definitely work for RNG as well. But yeah, you said Syndra, Orianna is a thing as well. Talia's banned in this thing. Oh, okay, we get a blind Ryze here.
So I love Ryze on this patch, specifically when you're building Abyssal Mask. As long as you're not dying before you can build the magic resist, you can start controlling that lane. And additionally, we talk a lot about why Ryze can particularly be good in pro play. It's for the reliability. You get your root onto the enemy mid laner as the Rek'Sai is coming in, and you can manufacture plays. That's why we see Frozen picking Cleanse, but we talk about Xiaohu so much being the MVP of the LPL. And RNG has built a composition around their strengths. Uzi on the Kog'Maw with a bunch of protection, and also Rek'Sai to help camp mid lane for Ryze.
Yeah, 1907 here Fenerbahçe, they have to win the bottom lane. Lulu Tristana is a very good early lane. They need to pressure the Janna and then have Crash play around that lane with the Nidalee. See if they can snowball against Uzi and Ming. Winning mid lane will be difficult. Winning top lane with the Maokai is not really going to happen. It's on Padden down in that bottom lane with Tristana to do well early on.
Interestingly enough, Ming bringing in his first competitive play, Janna. I know through the summer, I believe through the spring as well, since it wasn't even really seen there. So obviously playing it, but bringing it out on the table for the first time with Uzi here in the group stage. Going to be very interesting how they go lane to lane with Padden and Japone. Heading into the game, hashtag RNG win, hashtag FB win for 1907 Fenerbahçe. And we're about to see how the team, screaming through play-ins, is going to be able to do on the big international stage.
Yeah, it's just about to take off, and I can't wait to see a couple of things here in the early game, specifically how the bottom lane will do, Uzi versus Padden with the giant CS discrepancies, but also, will Mlxg manufacture First Blood once again? RNG gets it in 70% of their games. Additionally, with the Rek'Sai, it is very good at the early game.
Yes, this is exactly why a team like RNG can first pick that Rek'Sai, because it gives early pressure. Late game is not great from a Rek'Sai, you just a meat shield, but early on, good clear into very good early ganks.
Yeah, another thing to point out about the draft phase as we get in. For 1907 Fenerbahçe, everyone except Crash actually has their most played champion from Worlds playing. So as much as RNG gets to scout them, they did scout them, say we've seen the best you've got, and they don't care if they give it to them because RNG thinks they can beat them.
Another thing also to highlight with the level 1 items is Relic Shield on Padden. Now we have seen this, in the last few months from different AD carries. Often when I see Ardent Sensor supports versus each other, both AD carries actually go for Relic Shield because you do not want to fall behind in the race for completing Ardent Sensor. This one will go in favor of Fenerbahçe with that Relic Shield.
It's an arms race of who can get there, specifically when the bottom lanes are going barrier heal. And I really want to see how Uzi plays in this metagame because he's a guy who will push you into the turret and threaten kills so often, but they haven't taken a bottom lane that can do that, and then they haven't built the items to reach that arms race. So they're, in a sense, going to have to use that health advantage from the Dorn Shield to try and get that going. But Fenerbahçe going for an invade, trying to shake things up.
They feel they need to make something happen early if they can get the upper hand here. Glitter lands through the entire team. Mlxg flashing forward. Already took damage from before. One more shot. First Blood gonna come in. It goes to Crash on his jungle Nidalee.
What a smart invade here. No vision from RNG being placed, and they get surprised by how many members show up. Lulu gotta be careful.
Gotta be careful. This extends into the laning phase. They may not be able to purchase here, but let's see how they started off.
Well, we had the first blood question. That's been answered, and it did not go to RNG. Crash getting that first kill on Nidalee could have some huge implications coming through in this game. He doesn't have the large experience advantage because they didn't actually steal the buff, but they did get that first blood goal, which would impact him on his first recall.
Exactly. It's about the gold for him because Mlxg will make it back here. We see the blue buff being killed by Crash in just a few seconds, but he's not too far ahead in terms of the clear speed at the moment.
Yeah, I think he'll get there, though. We know Nidalee clears faster than the Rek'Sai. But to talk about that first blood play one more time, you have to call out RNG a little bit for either not having the right forward wards or not having the proper scouting because they got over-invaded there 3 versus 4.
There's also a move I was wondering if it mattered. When Mlxg took that hit, Xiaohu routed up to stand where Mlxg was, meaning Ryze was farther away from that red engage, and it could have had a different positioning if Mlxg hadn't taken that early Nidalee damage.
Good start here for 1907 Fenerbahçe. This game though, when RNG is drafted, the Cho'Gath up in the top lane, we know they're looking to go late game. They have the hyper carrier and Uzi. Like this RNG team, funny enough in this game, do not need to snowball early on, despite that being one of their main strengths.
And that was one thing that we actually saw from a different LPL team in the play-in, Team W, picking very late game compositions against a lot of the emerging region teams. And although it was very shaky in some games, they did win every single one.
Look at this one.
Sees Crash is very low, no flashes up on either side.
Very close. Mlxg knowing with the lane push, with Xiaohu coming back, they can get in the face of Crash, and they need to figure out where he is to slow him down, doing just that.
And at this point here, Crash is only slightly ahead in experience of Mlxg. Might see another fight here on the top side.
Mlxg undeterred by the first blood because he knows Crash hasn't shot yet, so it actually doesn't matter as far as this movement goes, and he has the health advantage.
Friendly farming.
Yeah, some friendly farming as Thaldrin is in lane with full health, so can't get too crazy if you're Mlxg.
Easily tunnel away, that's why there's no real aggression towards him. Letme with a good push on his. And they may be able to dip into the jungle here if he finds Crash once more. Mlxg is just being a nuisance so well right now to Crash's jungle.
We have to remember there are still camps for Mlxg to kill on his side.
Yeah.
Blue buff is there, Grump is there, the Croc's down in the bottom. Nothing on top side, so Crash needs to go back to base. Mlxg can go back to farming. He's gonna be happy enough.
Yeah, you can see RNG trying to get control back into this game where they're massive favorites by getting those deep wards, but they didn't manufacture any plays, and those deep wards have already expired. So really, it's just more good news for the early game of 1907 Fenerbahçe.
Aggression from Uzi. Seems like they wanted to get some damage on. They definitely have the health advantage. They could go for a head-to-head a little bit. Crash is heading down towards the bot side to finally uneven the CS in this lane. We'll see if he can do it.
This is a really smart gank by Crash.
One hit, dodges the spear. Nice job by Uzi. Steady mind as he goes into this fight. Knows Ming's there to help him. Low on mana, but they're still going to go for the fight as they see Fenerbahçe lower.
Yeah, it was a really smart gank by Crash because the probability of a counter gank was extremely low, knowing how long Mlxg had spent in the top side jungle and would probably go back to clear his blue side. However, the execution is what faltered. They didn't have any polymorph or pre-CC to help the spear land. The spear also missed, and they actually ended up losing that actual health trade in 2v3.
Luckily for Crash, he was just also kind of waiting for his camps to respawn. He was like, I have nothing to do on the map. I guess I'm just ganking something, hoping he could force a summoner, but he's back now. He's once again clearing everything. Mlxg not been able to find any early ganks. As we said, before the game started, this is the kind of jungler who can go for level 2 ganks, then level 3, then level 4, skip camps to just get his lanes ahead. In this game here, because they have so much scaling on their side, he does not feel forced to do it, and he's actually just right now playing a very standard jungle game and not looking to be over-aggressive.
Nice denial there to Xiaohu. His ward goes to waste for the moment, but it could be coming right back at Crash as they have seen he's placed one there and is on the bottom side of the map. Mlxg hunting down the bottom side of his Raptors before he heads back towards that top. We still haven't seen Thaldrin and Letme in really any action, as that's probably what's going to happen for a while. These guys just farming it out until we get the teleports in.
Yeah, that's the classic let me game. Is I'm sitting top lane and farming, and you guys are playing on the other side.
Farm.
Yeah, just let me farm. Mlxg is around mid. There's cleanse for Frozen, and he's very close to his tower, but obviously just getting a summon spell is a small win that could later on give a big advantage.
Yeah, all RNG need to do actually is get the summoner spell out if they then want to go for kill, but he's got to be a little careful. Doesn't have magic resist yet.
Oh, he actually gets pulled into the fight. Flashes on both sides to get himself the safety. Sorry, just the heal from Xiaohu.
Yeah, and no cleanse out of Frozen, so he still has that as the next level of gank avoidance. Also have to note with Letme trying to play this farm to 6 game, Mercury Treads makes it harder to combo a Nidalee gank with the Maokai. So still looking to play that lane very conservatively and discredit the gank a little bit.
Simply because if Maokai obviously snares the Cho'Gath and you fire a long-range spear, well then Tenacity will kick in, you get out of it fast, and you can dodge the spear.
And it's a fairly classic combo from the last time we saw Nidalee far in meta, is the Maokai and Nidalee would be a carry lane, so to speak, for the Nidalee. The Maokai literally just set up the Nid to get a whole bunch of kills, and I think that's what Fenerbahçe would like to do, but the Mercury Treads make that much more difficult.
Down here in the bottom lane, we mentioned how this Lulu Tristana lane could be very, very strong for Fenerbahçe, but we also got to factor in the individual skill. And obviously, Uzi Ming will be a stronger 2v2 lane just based on of the players, and they are able to just go completely even in farm here. Uzi's not getting shut down at all.
Right.
Yeah, have to note that at the level 1 engagement, Ming did burn heal, so it did have RNG play a little bit more defensive. But as far as expectations, pre-game to what's happening now, this bottom lane is performing way above the expectations. Looking at the CSDs in the group stage as they go for another game.
Frozen makes his way down. Remember, Cleanse is still there if he wants to bait it in for Crash. Has to try and get it below the minions. They could still get the kill. Crash comes up with another one. Xiaohu standing tall to see if he can get the bounce for the kill, but it's not going to be enough damage. He's just doing what he can. However, Japone now coming into mid lane as Ming enters the fight as well.
That's another one.
Spear is hitting left and right, but I don't know if he's got enough for the dive. They back off of this.
Yeah, Crash will land all the spears on the non-stun targets, but it just goes to show how far ahead on the play 1907 Fenerbahçe was. They can miss that spear and still get the kill.
We have to remember as well, Mlxg did trade his flash before, even actually after. Oh, sorry, Frozen flashed earlier,
right.
Then Mlxg follow flashed and did not manage to get a knock-up and ends up re-ganking the lane anyway, and suddenly counter-gank happens. Fenerbahçe, great reaction. Support is there, jungler is there. This is the play we see before, a good dodge from Frozen, and already now, Mlxg, he's in a bad spot.
I mean, he unburrowed early without getting the knockup. That was mistake one, and then the flash forward to try and execute. Does get that knockup after the spear misses, but the damage had already been done. This was a loss 2v2 from the get-go when the counter gank arrived after the knockup didn't land from Mlxg.
So also what we mentioned with RNG, sometimes having these fairly sloppy games where it is a lot of action and mistakes will happen. It is something Fenerbahçe are taking advantage of.
Yeah, and we heard Rek'Sai say it in the piece right before the show that Worlds isn't about what your regular season was. It's about how you perform at Worlds, and that's a mantra that Fenerbahçe has and needs to have here because, yes, we can look at this group and say it's a race between Samsung, RNG, and G2, but if you come to play, it can be a group about you as well. So Fenerbahçe have started with a great early, a long ways to go, but this is how they want to start.
Very nice always to go back and get a BF sword on your first back as Tristana. With your ulti as well, you actually have quite a lot of burst. Sadly, he's against a shield and a barrier and a heal, so he probably should not get a kill in this bottom lane, but it's good for some trades. Look as well what Mlxg is doing here. Skirmishers on this Rek'Sai, and he's going for Warrior Enchant. So because there's so much AP damage on RNG, he's trying to be the AD threat. But it means he's not going to have a lot of wards because he's not going for Tracker's Knife, and this will hurt RNG's vision.
I mean, you can see it already at the mini-map with how many wards are littered in the river for Fenerbahçe up on the top side. They have control of that, and we were talking about that bottom lane before, how Padden would be expected to get blasted in this lane by Uzi, but it's the defensive line on both sides. It's not really what you would expect as Uzi's wheelhouse, and lo and behold, Padden actually had a CS advantage at 10 here against Uzi, who's potentially one of the best laners the world has ever seen.
Fenerbahçe use the matchup to their favor here, but when you're also playing Ardent Sensor supports, remember everyone, you do not go Sidestone early. You rush the Ardent Sensor as fast as possible, so you're not bringing a lot of wards as a support in the early game. Your jungler is building skirmishers in this game as well. Like, you only have your Trinket wards and control wards.
And Deficio, how is RNG going to make any plays without any wards? They didn't go Tracker's Knife on the jungler, and they're rushing Ardent Sensor on the support. The support one is expected, the challenging spike not so much, so it is extremely difficult for RNG to make a play happen because they're running in blind.
Also, I always like to take a look at what item of the Ardent Sensor comes first. Actually, focused quite quickly after for Ming was that idol, but he did get the Aether Wisp first. A little bit of movement speed. But he gets that shield power back in. Ming coming through. Remember, there's a flash and the cleanse now for Frozen, but he is going down fast. They finally answer back in the mid lane. Mlxg and Xiaohu come up.
I mean, there's some serious damage from Mlxg now on this Rek'Sai. We are still early on in the game. People will not have armor just yet to defend against him. So he finally gets that kill in the mid lane against Frozen. Third time he tried.
Yeah, from the looks of it, RNG really want to get Xiaohu going, and now that they have cleanse down, they're going to continue to try and play through this mid lane. Crash trying to defend the turret. There's the flash.
A little too close for comfort. Mlxg over the wall, and it's Xiaohu going to be storm surging through with the damage. A kill onto Crash. He has 2 kills, but now goes down. Fight onto Uzi. Beautiful shield and heal from Ming.
And Mlxg's on the way to the bottom lane. He can tunnel over the wall here.
He's going to have a long way to fight, though.
All summoners up.
Just saying hello.
Man, could not follow through on that one, but Uzi very healthy after all of that fighting has occurred because the ultimate from Ming healed them up high. This mid lane, though, Fenerbahçe is trying to regain control.
Oh, unleashed. Not enough power. Can he get forward? He cannot. Xiaohu makes that alive and knows that ult is now down in the mid lane for a summonerless Frozen
and
Syndra.
Flash.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the key thing now. No flash from Frozen against Mlxg's Rek'Sai. We already saw what happened before here when he went for this gank and Frozen actually had flash available. That wasn't enough because there's so much damage he couldn't even get to use it.
Yeah,
See the mid lane?
Still no flash on Crash, so Xiaohu with the flash lockdown on the Rune Prison. That's the reliability of Ryze that Fenerbahçe need to find a way to defend against, and they have been doing such a good job of it for the first 11.5 minutes before that happened, but they have to hope that it isn't rolling now for RNG.
And we've just seen a clear game plan from Mlxg's side, like farm early on and then look towards mid lane where you have a Ryze with his instant CC against the Syndra. That's the lane you're camping. Don't go down to Uzi just yet. Let him just farm. Same for Cho'Gath in top lane. Play around Xiaohu in that mid lane. It's been working now after a shaky start, but he's now been getting some kills.
Start to focus. You know, as we said, that ultimate down for Frozen with his summoners. It's a little bit easier for Ryze to stay in a fight as such. Take that damage, a little bit healthier for the worse for the wear. Crash just behind Frozen in his back pocket, and it looks like Mlxg is going to be coming out of base for now. So Xiaohu stands slow in mid. Not going to be doing too much aggression. All the CS on the map is very even. It's been these little hits by Mlxg and Crash that are turning the tides of the fight, and it's really going to be up to them to keep doing more.
And you see down here in the bottom lane how Padden is able to outtrade Uzi. 1907 Fenerbahçe needs to play around this lane here now. They have Ardent Sensor, they have a BF sword on the Tristana. They need to kill this bot lane tower to start really snowballing the game.
And they barely touched it. And we have talked about how Padden was above expectations for the CS beforehand. They're trying to break it right now. They're sending Syndra down. He's going before Ryze. They're going to try and go for it right now. Mlxg is here, though.
They see a third. Opening up the map could be the best for them.
There's also a ward behind him in the little brush here near the wall. Letme is sitting with TP ready in case he needs to join.
The push-up is big, though. Thaldrin can easily stop that with the twisted advance as they are toe-to-toe, and it looks like this one fizzles out with just too much rotation from everybody on the map.
Pressure's gone there once again, and we talked so much about the Ardent Sensor race and how the Relic Shield could help Fenerbahçe win it, or even how the assist early would have made them win that, but I kept checking the gold, and Ming was right there with him. It's because he's gone for gold generating seals and gold quintessences on the Janna, so such a small amount of laning power on that. It ended up actually giving Ming more gold than Japone got thanks to Padden's Relic Shield. So in a sense, RNG did end up tying, or they would have won that Ardent Sensor race thanks to the rune choice on Janna, but that comes at a cost of not being able to get a big CS lead or play too aggressive in lane.
Little time warp forward. And the warp doesn't work that time. Looks like Ming's gonna hang out, get some ward clear, but they know he's down there. A nice ward placed over the wall, gives Crash an idea of what's going on. They can kind of walk this one in slowly and do a bit of damage to Ming. Push into Frozen though, so he cannot help here.
Well, the next play is still the same here for 1907 Fenerbahçe. It is try and get that bot lane tower down. They got a bit of damage before. Ideally, you can push out your mid lane first so the Syndra can roam before the Ryze, and you can actually go down with 4 members to really hit that tower. But that is why Mlxg has spent so much time in mid to make sure Frozen can't just freely leave that lane over and over. He's kind of stuck there dealing with the Ryze every single time. And Mlxg is down here in the bottom lane now, trying to maybe bait Fenerbahçe to hit the tower and then try and go for a play.
Yeah, three's a crowd for sure on that bot lane play. Crash is going to actually find Xiaohu, so bot lane should know the rotation of mid means there is something bad coming down to the bot lane. 1907 Fenerbahçe may not be able to make it out in time. A flash from Japone. He says Wild goes forward to help the team disengage, and he does just that. Beautiful in by Thaldrin. He is in the middle of the fight, but is it too far forward as Letme's trying to get a bite out of Crime? Gets it with the Vorpal spikes to finish the kill. And now they're going to try to pick up a few more. Finally getting something out of that. RNG could open up the game.
Yeah, essentially trying to counter gank whatever Fenerbahçe was doing bottom lane, but then when they see Crash in the mid lane, they think, why don't we just pull off the gank? They slowly teleport in. Not much reliability with that initial engage, but they still generate the kill onto the Maokai, and they get the first turn.
And it was the second time they placed that ward in that rush here, basically saying, we know you're going to push this tower down, and then you will be overextended. RNG reading the one play Fenerbahçe could go for, and they punish it. That ward sitting there behind Padden and Japone in the bottom lane is what allows Cho'Gath to actually engage the team fight.
And Japone had a well-timed flash to get away from the Rek'Sai ultimate, but that also means you then have no flash up against the Cho'Gath Rupture. Thaldrin ends up flying in to try and save the day, but he gets low enough that Feast plus Vorpal spikes end up picking up the kill onto Thaldrin. So pretty narrow margins here for RNG, and this is definitely not the type of performance I think you would expect from a team that has been so hyped out of the LPL, but they have started to regain control of this game.
But that's also the very interesting thing about the meta coming into Worlds, where we have more of these Ardent Sensor late game comps. So even teams that are used to playing very focused around early game and really get a big advantage will have to adapt and change that style a little bit. Like, you can't have Uzi win his lane on this hyper carry with a Janna who needs to just sit back and farm. You have to then, of course, change a little bit in how you're playing. Now he has a rage play completed, he has full ranks in his W, so Uzi is going to do some serious damage already at this point.
Yeah, and a deprioritization of Dragon there for RNG. ends up netting them a
Yeah.
full turret for 0 plus the Rift Herald. We'll have to see whether that costs them later. They're basically banking on this not going into an Elder Dragon type game and trying to win before that.
I love the call. I think getting down early towers is so much more valuable when you have scaling champions that need the gold for items. It's a Cloud Drake as well you're giving away, won't affect the scaling on Fenerbahce's side, so this was definitely a win for RNG. They just need to get down this mid lane tower now, so Frozen on this Syndra never feels safe in lane because Mlxg can always gank him.
Yeah, and that kind of going in blind early game that RNG suffered through with the challenging Smite and the Ardent Sensor Rush is over now. Look at the number of control wards they're purchasing. 3 in the inventory of Xiaohu, as well as a completely upgraded Ancient Coin so Ming can carry 4 wards. They're starting to get some of that vision back, plus they now have the gold lead and a tower advantage.
It warms my cold heart to see RNG invest in control wards, because when you're VOD reviewing RNG, there's quite some games where the Doran's Blade and the Cole and, you know, these kind of items are sitting above the control wards in priority.
As a
for these
play-by-play,
guys.
sometimes you sigh because it means less fighting. They know where the team is, but for RNG,
Maybe
maybe
more if they
more.
can find them.
Exactly. So that's what we're hoping for. As they continue now, looking for mid lane, it is taken down quite low. Xiaohu's going to take the top side now. They've been moving Uzi around since the Rage Blade is finished. Now he's got the Hurricane, and they're just out to get that last outer turret and move themselves and those wards a little farther forward.
And this point in the game could also be a struggle for 1907 Fenerbahce because of their potential communication issues. The team played most of the split using basic English between the two of them, but now with Crash in this game right here, that gets even a little bit harder, so Frozen has to act as a bit of a translator for him here. So essentially, they're a half step slow on any big macro plays they're trying to pull off, and even though in past years you have talked about the Chinese teams not necessarily having that great macro, yeah, they're the ones that have the big advantage right here with the all-Chinese roster, very comfortable in the late game as well throughout the LPL split.
Yeah, we saw also in play-ins from 1907 Fenerbahce that it wasn't due to the beautiful late game rotations they were winning games. Like, it was down to big late game team fights and these like really big carry performances. Baron Steals was definitely in there as well. They're gonna try and find the support here.
Oh, nice flash there. Japone getting himself to safety. And it looks like the Wild Growth will also keep him a bit healthy, long enough to stay and give a few more whimsies and shields to the team. They're going to try to protect mid, but this becomes much scarier, knowing that ult is down, knowing his summoners are down.
Exactly, here's Letme as well with the right flurry.
Just had to scare him off the turret, that's all that was necessary, and they have 1907 Fenerbahce contained right here. They're just threatening enough with their front line and back line. And when we talked about the construction of these team compositions in the draft phase, this is the point of the game that RNG was building towards. The Rage Blade on the Kog'Maw, as well as the Ardent Sensor Janna, and the front to back nature of these team fights with tanks in front and the damage dealers trying to burn through the tanks. RNG's team composition does that better, which is why 1907 Fenerbahce is ceding so much ground.
Exactly, like, we do not have really tanky junglers in this game like we normally would see with these kind of drafts, because there's a Nidalee on one side and then this full AD Rek'Sai on the other one. But the Cho'Gath versus the Maokai, they're both very tanky here, but the extra % damage for Uzi, the Rage Blade is going to stack up so quickly with the Hurricane and everything, and the shield is getting the Ardent Sensor. Like, it just makes him such a massive carry. Crash is not going to stop him. Frozen can't one-shot him because of Janna being next to him and the barrier. It gets really difficult for Fenerbahce unless Padden can actually kill this Cho'Gath first.
And there is a world where this game goes to 45 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like a 6-item Tristana actually has better multipliers than a Kog'Maw who's gone with these somewhat on-hit builds. And then you take into effect that the Nidalee can also increase the attack speed even more of the Trist. And you could see Padden getting some insane team fights like he did in the play-in, where he had 25 more kills than the next closest player in the play-in stage. His team fighting was spectacular in a lot of cases. It's just going to be really difficult for them to get to that point, as RNG holds a lot of advantages right now.
Those are also going to be some big heals from Crash with that Athene's coming out. The AD carry is going to have a little more weight put on them here. It was about the junglers in the early game of Mlxg and Crash, but now it starts to go more across the board as the map has spread out. Padden getting himself to safety as he does not have time to mess around in the mid lane by himself. The 1907 Fenerbahce is a little too spread out right now, feeling good.
But we do see that RNG are not running like a ton of hard engage, so despite finding the AD carry in the mid lane, they can't actually force the fight onto him. Like, he just jumps away, uses his ult, didn't have to use flash. RNG will have to bait around objectives, Baron being the big one, and that's what you can do with these comps that are lacking the easy hard engage, because you still have options to Righteous Glory in, TP from behind with a Cho'Gath, and otherwise just take the Baron.
Exactly, and they don't have to worry as much about Baron steals, even though they can definitely happen, because RNG has the Cho'Gath, who has a larger true damage spike than anyone else is capable of in this game, so that makes it a slightly more reliable force if they choose to play around that and continue to try and choke out the vision with all of their control points.
Uzi purchase as well. Is going for something that he can stay alive, something he can be a star in as well. That Quicksilver Sash, very quick coming out as his third item, and he says, you know, I have a lot of safety, but I also want to be able to play like an all-star if I have to.
Yeah, I think the main reason he's going for it here is not like because he's so afraid of a Maokai CC, it's also the fact there's so much magic damage on Fenerbahce's side.
As well.
It generally just is a good defensive buy for him because he knows he has enough damage, and he just needs a little bit more tankiness. Basically, Frozen is going to try and combo him every time.
Yeah, Uzi always feels his ability to outplay with QSS will trump anything else. I think from a math perspective, the Wit's End would have been the correct choice here because he would have gotten the magic resist, has the protection of the Janna, and then also would have done more damage. But you can definitely understand the logic of wanting to QSS out of a Syndra stun or a Maokai route to make sure he doesn't get hit by the follow-up CC.
Double bonus.
Letme getting bigger and bigger here. We saw that RNG's longest average game time here out of groups being around 37 minutes. That's great for a Cho'Gath. I mean, we said the Tristana will get big, but he is going to get big up to that point where she can shred him down, and Letme can start chewing down on Thaldrin. There's not much help from the rest of the members of 1907 Fenerbahçe to be in that fight.
I really want to see Mlxg get some tanky items now, though. Like, he's so squishy in the front, and none of these team fights are about bursting someone super quickly. Like, you won't get to these carries easily, so fights will be a little bit longer. And based on AD carries getting a lot of auto attacks off, this Rek'Sai will only add value when he jumps in first, does a bit of burst damage, and then he's going to die pretty quickly.
Do you consider Guardian Angel a defensive item?
I do, yeah.
That's what's next. BF Sword first. I've seen this build a few times. Contracts ended up doing it in the regional qualifier final. And I imagine with the increased priority on Rek'Sai in the draft phase being about the 5th priority jungler, that's common. And there you go, BF Sword first.
First he got the last whisper, he was like, no, wait, Jet is calling for the GA. I will sell this, and he's going for the quote-unquote tankiness, which of course it does offer some with the armor and the fact
BF Sword's a tank item if you believe in it.
Funny crash now, it looks like it's going to be building up even more damage. A little penetration is going to be the next item. Void Staff if he decides to finish that up, and Uzi would not last long at this point.
Wow.
With that amount of damage coming
All right, Uzi's going
but they got to get to him. That's the whole story of this. That back line, the front line has to get to the back line. It's very hard on both teams with Japone on Lulu, Ming on the Janna, and those guys haven't even really been bringing out the saves just yet. We haven't seen the big fights happen.
I mean, obviously with Uzi now going for Hexdrinker, again, it's the same thing. He's looking at, you know, Maokai damage, Nidalee damage, there's Syndra damage, like so much magic coming in, and those are the guys hitting him. But it's also because no one is building like Locket for him for extra shielding just yet, at least, and he probably feels like, again, he has enough damage, but it does still give Padden more of a chance to become a big hero in the late game, that he will soon have 3 items, and with all these defensive choices, Uzi's damage is not as high as it could be.
Exactly. He's trying to prevent the instance where Frozen stacks up a bunch of Dark Spheres, flashes, presses R on him, and then his barrier isn't enough to keep him alive. Like, that's what he's fearful of. But in going so defensive, I think you actually incur an even larger risk of not being able to kill the front line and getting out carried. Got to see how this plays out, or if RNG can get a pick.
It's the same deal again here, where RNG are not running hard engage. So they need to force Fenerbahçe to move into this river here and contest the Baron if they want to take a fight. And then Mlxg can tunnel over the wall. Letme can Righteous Glory in from the side, and they can actually start the fight. But right now, they're not actually starting the Baron.
Exactly, and it's because they haven't taken deep enough control of the jungle of 1907 Fenerbahçe. The control ward that Fenerbahçe has at their red buff has been there for the past 5 minutes, and as long as they can walk freely through that rush, they can get wards into the Baron pit and safely check it. And that's the cycle that they have consistently been running for 3 minutes, as this game feels very stalled out.
I think at this point you go for the side lanes, you play ring around the Ryze, you get them pushed up to at least a 2nd tier, and you realm back to the Baron.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Riv, how they have the Realm Warp that has not been utilized, and you can pull off a bunch of stuff, moving from top turret to Baron to really change the state of the game. They're going to use it to try and kill Frozen.
Flash and flash, there is the Realm Warp, they use it. Frozen goes down, and Uzi gets on the board with the kill. Oh, Japone gonna get chomped down here. Wild Growth is there. Looks like he's gonna use it to stuff himself. Oh, the shot coming in. Uzi's gonna get himself another one very fast, and this is that second tier.
Yeah.
They need to start pushing.
And Padden has opted to try and race mid lane. He might be able to trade a turret, but losing control of this side of the map endangers Baron even more, because this is exactly the range. From about where Xiaohu is now to Baron Pit is the max Realm Warp range, so they have so much more ground to play with when they try and force Baron. But this trade actually isn't ending. They're going to lose the inhibitor.
Yeah, because Padden is still pushing right now. They know exactly where they're going for more.
If they can take out Thaldrin, this is going to be very bad. The tankiest one of the team is actually going down very fast. His RNG are putting some finishing touches on the top side inhibitor. Looks like they'll exit apps with this as no other lanes are pushed. But what a play.
1907 Fenerbahçe actually had very good defensive vision, but if you guys look at the minimap, you will notice it just at the top of where the Janna is now. That's the only place Fenerbahçe did not have any wards. That was the one entrance RNG found to surprise Frozen in that top lane and kill him early on. They were actually defending so well until that point, but RNG just snuck their way in. One kill led into 2 kills, and suddenly multiple towers went down, and now they're getting super minions.
Yeah, the mid lane priority will be a little bit more difficult for RNG to get because they lost the turrets there, but I think they're very happy about that trade, and they've hit a lot of item power spikes here that'll make them more comfortable in going for this. You can see Mlxg going Frozen, very offensive build. Frozen tries to trade back, but they easily just finish him off. And then, since they'd already lost Syndra, 1907 Fenerbahçe decides not to defend their inhibitor, but instead trade the turrets, because I think there's a world in which they defend 4 versus 5. They didn't want to take that. They instead decided to go for the turret.
I think they're also expecting RNG after this tower goes down to just go to Baron. Yeah, back up and go to Baron. Then Padden is in a good position to join a potential fight, but that didn't happen. Bot lane right now, Thaldrin is potentially overextended.
No flash. Just gotta get the knockout.
This is the Bramble Smash on Letme, which means he's silenced. He's knocked up from the Rupture. He tries to keep him in range long enough, but Letme is basically healing under the damage of 1907 Fenerbahçe.
Twice now where RNG, instead of playing around the Baron itself, are finding 2 members in the side lanes trying to push out the lanes.
Yep. It's almost a fake out where 1907 Bache is saying we have to get the lanes pushing so they can't go to the objectives, but when RNG could just take the objectives, they're going for the kills instead and going for turrets.
And you call for those Ryze ultis. We just saw 2 of them, 1 top lane, now 1 bot lane, bring in more members. They're getting more!
That's big. Letme just tanking Crash Low. Wild Growth is on. That means Padden doesn't have the save, but he's still trying to step forward. Always seeing Padden trying to make the move, but they may be too far behind now. The second tier going down, finds himself back to the back line, but still, they can't find the damage necessary to slow down RNG.
Yeah, clutch rocket jump there by Padden to time it with the knockup of Rek'Sai and not have that turn into a disaster with 2 lost inhibitors, but they still lost Crash, they've lost the turret, and now RNG, knowing the enemy jungler is down and their Cho'Gath's feast is up, are going straight for Baron.
Frozen is alive. He's done this before. The Syndra combo will deal more damage than a smite. But as you said, Jet, not more than feast and smite combined.
There it is. Wow, that went down very fast. A very quick back from the Baron empowered RNG. And it looks like they'll be back to play very fast. A mid lane and bot lane turret now with objective-free map. Means they can go wherever they want.
Yeah, just giving over the Drakes entirely. They do not care about the Cloud Drake since they are catching people with Realm Warp anyway. And with Void Staff being completed by Xiaohu, I think the game does take another turn. They can kill Thaldrin so fast. Look at how, I mean, he doesn't actually go down that quickly here between the Kog'Maw and the Ryze damage, but they still burst him fairly quickly. With the Void Staff, the Ryze will be able to shred through him much more easily.
Doesn't end there. You see 1907 Fenerbahçe almost kind of pulled into that false sense of security as the minion wave takes a little too long, and then they find their fight.
Yeah, generally not a good call to try and defend that outer turret 4 versus 5 this late into the game, and they get punished for it.
Very quickly though, this game just like suddenly went heavily in favor of RNG. It was actually stalling out, and there were chances Fenerbahçe was getting back in the game, but after the kill in top and then now the kill in the bot lane, it feels like RNG have just taken full control. over everything, and they will push already for this bot lane tower. Inhib top is still dead.
Kind of looked at what 1907 Fenerbahçe would have problems with, and it was that snap judgment macro. As soon as it happened, if things weren't going even throughout the game, if they weren't the one to be on the top side of that judgment, that snap judgment, then they would fall behind and have trouble
Oh,
getting
the
back
escape.
in. Beautifully done by Xiaohu. Throwing the okie doke over to 1907 Fenerbahçe, gets himself out, and they're going to head down, up towards the mid lane rather. 35 minutes coming up on the clock, very close to that average time here for Royal Never Give Up as they try to put the damage down onto Thaldrin, but he is just healing back and forth as well from Crash to get those heals in, but it looks like they will stay for the inhibitor.
And right back to full HP with the redemption coming in. They will take this one down as well. RNG are looking very strong at the moment. Uzi is so strong here in the late game, and same for Xiaohu, honestly, so both carries able to win team fights for their team.
Yeah, knowing the exact inhib timing as well, RNG move over there to pick it up. 2 inhibs cycled, can still go for the third because they have plenty of Baron left, about a minute of it. So as you said, Deficio just completely taking this game for themselves in the last 8 minutes or so after what was a very slow start.
Inhibitors falling slowly, but I don't know if Frozen's going to try to get in. He went very low there. A rupture into Uzi damage would mean Frozen's out of the fight immediately. And it looks like they have to back off and get the heal in for Frozen before that minion wave gets there.
And we just saw Padden get a few hits on Letme right there. It barely did anything to the Cho'Gath, and this is the kind of problem for Fenerbahçe. They got to kill Letme fast so they can actually get further on and get to the back line of RNG, but this Cho'Gath will just not die.
I mean, Thaldrin will, he's way ahead of the team. Oh, they're on Uzi!
They're on Uzi. Uzi gets that cleanse. That's the unleashed power. He stays alive. The shields come through.
Gotta heal.
Stays alive from the bomb as well. RNG, however, have to pull back. Padden has the damage. Padden could have a whimsy to speed up. He's only got Letme to hit, though. Mlxg could be able to stop them to use that Guardian Angel, but it is getting touch and go.
Classic Uzi. Sometimes he needs to be a little bit overconfident in what he's doing.
Mercurial Scimitar, Hex Drinker, Yarom's Fist, all of those things kept him alive when he was way up there. Barrier, heal. They used 2 heals on him during that fight, but he's alive. It was fine. That means his build alive.
Yeah, hey.
I've heard that before.
You got the inhib, so I guess job's done.
3 inhibs.
No flash of barrier though. If there is a new fight for 1907 Fenerbahçe, like they need to go for it now, basically. There are ways to actually try and kill Uzi. Look at him, how fast or how far forward he's staying to kill that inhib. Everyone else is leaving.
Wanted the inhibitor.
They're like, give it an inhib, maybe kill the Nidalee, and that actually opens up for Padden. He has to deal some serious damage to it, but last heal coming in from Xiaohu.
You can see they were kind of considering it. He's like, no, heal me. Do it. That bomb's going off. And they are on the same page all across the board right now. Terrifying to see that come through. Crash could be the first one going down here, as that is what RNG is doing right into the front side of the base for 1907 Fenerbahçe. 8-2 here, 37.5 minutes in with a 10,000 gold lead. It's just 5 members of 1907 Fenerbahçe that stand between RNG and the Nexus now.
Mortal Reminder is now ready for Padden here. He will get the heal from Crash as well to further buff his attack speed. There will be the Lulu Arc sensor, but he needs to have time to actually hit someone. RNG, more than happy just dancing in and out of these team
for the
fights.
minions.
Yeah, with 3 inhibitors down, it's double super minions in every single wave, so they can most likely push through this even without the Baron. They're just going to hit the turrets and force 1907 Bocce to fight him. If they don't fight him, the Nexus is going to die.
Letme tanking, but not for long. The turrets fall even faster. Crash goes down. A few shots from Uzi. Uzi stays alive. Scat of the week goes down right at the end by Frozen. They may have to back up. Nature's grabs come through. A few hugs here for RNG, and they should be able to drop Letme. He may even say, I'm going down for the team. But wait, they stay. Mlxg on the side. Xiaohu on the right, trying to spit in the damage from the machine gun mage, and they are able to tear down 1907 Fenerbahçe, where they stand in their base. A 13-3 scoreline, and the Nexus for RNG as they start off their 2017 Worlds run with a victory.
38 minutes, 42 seconds. You may say it took them too long, but that's very close to their average game time throughout the LPL team. This team took gold runes on the Janna. They played for late. They even got first blooded by a surprise invade, but still, died 3 times the entire game, picked up 13 kills, and in the end of it, it was a decisive victory.